Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. So what I thought I will do a little bit is, since this is the verse, the previous verse is the one when Krishna Bhagwan gave a whole discourse on meditation, and now Arjun has a question, so we can just review a little bit so that we don't forget, and that will be this is a good point to do that. So whole thing started chapter 1 where Arjun got confused in the battlefield, and in second chapter Bhagwan told him that you have to realize or recognize yourself, because if you don't do that, that's when all the trouble starts in our life. All the problems that we face and sorrows that we face because we don't know who we are. So that was the whole idea. And you know how Nikhilanandji said that this recognizing and realizing ourselves does not happen just by studying books, or he even joked like, I don't know who I am, so I can look in the mirror and find out. No, it's not going to happen that way either. So what do we have to do? We have to transcend our different koshas, the layers that we have over the consciousness, and see ourselves by ourselves. That's the whole idea. And so he always gives very good example. It's like if a person wears a lot of makeup, पूरा पोत लिया चेहरा, तो उसका असली चेहरा दिखाई नहीं देता है. I thought that was such a great example. So we have to remove the makeup if we want to see who the real person really is. So, basically what he was trying to say is that it's not like physically you're removing here, over here, because the koshas are such that, while we are in this body, we cannot physically remove it, but you have to be aware of and go within, kind of, And so what is happening currently is our awareness is outwardly, because we saw in Kathopanishad that how our sense organs always project outside and gather information from outside, and you have to reverse it by this process. Looking within means not looking at my body within. That's not what it means. Looking within means who am I, kind of. That kind of looking within is called that. And for that purpose, to do that, I have to have a knowledge of the self. So that is required. And when we have the knowledge of the self, then only we can put our attention on it, because he had mentioned about putting the attention. So what are the things that are required to meditate? Because the whole process, he said, was that finally we have to meditate upon it. And so we need knowledge. That who am I? Intellectually, I need to know who am I. That's one thing. And then we need purity of the mind, means calmness and control, starting with the control and calmness, and then, mind becoming more and more pure. Because what is the problem? Mind is very restless. So he was saying that how, even if we have a knowledge of who Brahman is, if I'm restless, I cannot meditate still, in spite of that knowledge. That's why both those things are very important. And so mind needs to be under control and calm and peaceful. So various sadhanas were mentioned by Bhagwan, and in the scriptures also, all different scriptures, how to quieten the mind and make it pure. So Lord Krishna gave the simplest technique for everybody, that you begin by performing your duties, fulfilling your responsibility, because everybody has their responsibilities in this world when we come. But how to do that, that's what he taught, with the attitude of service. Not constantly asking what is in for me, not that way. And then bring that attitude that I'm serving God through my duties. So with this attitude, selfishness reduces, lot of negative qualities go away and mind becomes more and more pure. That's what happens. So, and then what happens with the pure mind? That the jigyasa comes, or the thirst to know, that, what is my nature? Who am I? So if that question is coming to you, be sure that your mind is becoming pure. Because जो पूरा संसारी होगा ना, उसको ये कोई प्रश्न भी नहीं आएगा उसके मन में. You say, what do you mean, who am I? I'm this. I'll अपना नाम बोल देगा, and that's it. So if you want to know, then that means that's what it is. That very good spiritual beginning. So also with that thirst, that I want to know who I am, with that thirst I pursue the study of scriptures with the help of the teacher. That's how you begin. And then slowly and steadily we will come to realize that who am I? Because it's also something like suddenly even if somebody says you're not the body, we won't understand in the beginning what it is. It takes a little time, And then because this who am I is not very obvious. It's not like, किसी ने बता दिया और मेरे को एकदम से मालूम पड़ जाएगा. Because we deeply think ourselves as just the body. It's been happening for so many janmas, So through the scriptures and through the Mahatmas, it's available to us. In the East, it is amazing. So, but the sad part is, this is what Nikhilananji was saying, even though the Mahatmas are there, even though the scriptures are there, still, he's saying in India, people have so much misunderstanding about this. And after you started studying Geeta seriously, you probably realize already so many misunderstandings are there. So he's saying that when the people talk about Atma, तो वो people इतने confused हो जाते हैं, they will say, oh, उसकी आत्मा भटक रही है or something. Movies are the worst. Whenever they show anything, they will always show some ghost or something, and absolutely it is not like that, So he's saying that is the sad part. So we have to try to remove all this misunderstanding. So we have to study the scripture, contemplate upon it, and then reflect upon it, and with various logics and all that. It's not like somebody told you and you just believe it. No, there are logic there. You can ask questions, and everything is there. And and then also, as we studied Bhagavad Gita, I told you systematic way how to move forward to from chapter 1 until now. So once we have the conviction, we are strongly start believing beyond a doubt now that yes, this is true, I'm not the body. So then what do? Then with that understanding that, I am that self, intellectually knowing that self is birthless, deathless, it's pure consciousness, pure existence, it's bliss. With that conviction, I will develop enough vairagya, detachment. When I'm sitting in meditation, I won't be thinking of the world because, now I'm convinced that this is what I am and everything else is unreal, kind of mithya. Means I experience it, but that there's no reality in it, but the Brahman is real. So with that non-attachment to the world, towards all these pleasures and all of the world, then I become fit for meditation, finally. These are the steps given by Krishna Bhagwan himself. And then that's the time it's called Yoga Rood. Coming back to the beginning of the chapter, when Krishna Bhagwan said that you have to become Yoga Rood first, then you can meditate, you become fit for meditation. So, and then after this, he explained what meditation is and all about the problems and everything and how to do it. So basically he said, sit down somewhere free from all distractions in the beginning, a quiet place, and you sit alone. And then slowly and steadily bring the mind to think about the self. Shift the attention from the world to the self. And once the mind is focused on the self, then don't initiate any other kind of thinking. Because your mind has a tendency to keep thinking this is. And if you, for a long time, slowly for a long time, if you practice this, then mind will kind of start becoming quiet. It might run here and there still. and then bring it back. There were a couple of verses when he said, bring this mind back to the self, focus on the self, calm the mind. And then when this is continuously done for a long time, and then remember, we had discussed that long time may be different for different people. Could be days, months, years, in some cases lifetimes also, we don't know. Okay, so he did not specify, it depends on each student, where they are. Slowly we will get established in that self. And once you gain that realization of the self, then you will get the direct experience also, And then with that experience, what is going to happen? He will look at the world as himself. So as though the self will know itself. And also like the whole world will appear in myself, and the whole will, it's like, we talked about that oneness, the nadi becoming the sagar, the river becoming the ocean. So, and then you realize I'm in all, and all is in me. That both ways we will know it. And then I also will realize I'm no different from God. And God is in everything, and everything is in God. That kind of experience we will get. So he's saying that Krishna Bhagavan said the one who has gained the vision, this vision, and looks at his whole world as himself, that person is a supreme yogi. He's the highest according to him. Every other thing is how you reach there, that does not matter. But this is it. This is the final thing. And then we saw the example that just like my own body, I see oneness in my own body, and how I behave with my own body, same way this person behaves with the whole cosmos like that. So, and he's totally, at this point, there is absolutely no doubt because he has his own experience. जैसे बोलते हैं खुद को experience हो जाएगा तो कोई कितना भी उसके opposite बोलेगा, you're not going to believe them. That's what, from the worldly perspective. So this is all that Bhagavan explained in detail. And then so this was the concluding verse where he said, who was a supreme yogi. So after listening to all this, now Arjuna has a doubt. Okay, and that's the doubt that we're going to see. He expresses his doubts in two different verses. So we will do this verse right now. Verse 33. This is the beginning of his doubt. And then 34 is when he kind of clarifies his doubt further. So let's look at verse 33 of chapter 6. And I'm going to chant. Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatva sthitim sthiram. Here is which. I am this. Yoga, we know, he's talking about dhyana yoga. Tvaya, by thee. Proktaha, taught. Said, or taught. Samyena, this is a very important word. Yoga of equanimity. So the samyena means equanimity. When you see oneness, that's what he's talking about. Madhusudana is, and we will see, this is a name of Lord Krishna. And Bhagavad Gita is amazing that they have put the names of different names that Arjuna addresses Krishna Bhagwan, and Krishna Bhagwan addresses Arjuna with so many different names. And it has a huge psychological meaning behind it. Why in this particular context you call him Madhusudana, and we'll see. Etasya, it's. Aham is I. Na is not. Pashyami, see. Means I don't see this like this. Chanchalat, restlessness. Sthitim, steady. Sorry, sthitim means continuous. Jo, matlab, for a long period of time, jo maintain ho, usko bolte sthiti, jisme wo establish ho. That's the right word, I guess. Sthiram is steady. So what is Arjun talking over here? So, after listening very attentively to Krishna Bhagwan, all what he said about meditation, he is also kind of trying to see now within himself and see, whatever he's saying, can I do this or not? Just हम लोग को भी कभी-कभी doubt है, my God, like Meeraji was saying, God, it sounds so complicated. Exactly same thing अर्जुन को भी हुआ. That's why अर्जुन के प्रश्न हम लोग को बहुत अच्छे लगते हैं, because ये हमारे ही प्रश्न है. So he was trying to look within, and then main thing what Krishna Bhagwan started out with the, hey, start with controlling your mind. And I remember Tejomayananji one time, he was talking to the younger people, and he said, and he was telling, maybe as teachers he was telling us, we were having a meeting with him, and he said, when you tell the younger people control your mind, they don't like it at all. So we have to use some clever words, management of the mind, because they love the word management. So you can call it management of the mind, Okay, manage your mind. So what is the management over here? To make it calm, quiet, peaceful, and then place the mind in the self. That's what Krishna Bhagwan had said. So when Arjun thought to himself, can I do this? And all of a sudden he felt, God, this sounds impossible. That my mind should become totally quiet and go on the self. And many of us feel like that this is, and बैठ के देखो तो मालूम पड़ता है, right? कि कैसे मन भटकता है. Like suddenly, I'm sitting in meditation and my mind is already gone to some other country or some other thing. So we know. So basically Arjun is thinking, hey, this is a beautiful theory. It sounds so wonderful. But when you try to practice it, no, it is not practical. So that's when he said, and then he called Bhagwan, he said, hey, Madhusudana, because Madhusudan is like, like from the physical world, okay, they said there is a Rakshas called Madhu, and Krishna Bhagwan killed him. But what is the symbolism behind it? Symbolism is, like जो हमारा ego होता है ना, वो बड़ा sweet लगता है हम लोग को. मैं हूँ, अरे मेरी बात मानी लोगों ने, या like अरे मेरे को praise किया, finally they recognize what I'm doing, all those stuff, mind में बड़ा sweet लगता है उसका honey की जैसा लगता है. मगर हम spiritual progress के लिए it's a disaster, because it fattens our ego further, so he's calling it Madhusudan to Krishna, जिसने मधु को मार दिया, means वो ego को खत्म कर दिया. That's the whole symbolism behind it. So what he's saying is that you are Madhusudan, you are very great, Baba. You have already conquered your ego. लेकिन मेरा अभी ऐसा नहीं हुआ है. So that's why it is difficult for me. So basically what he's saying is, and the way he addresses is,
I thought Madhu was a Rakshas.
Yeah, Geeta. That's exactly what I told you, that in the physical world, yes, Madhu is a Rakshas. Did you just come?
Yes, I joined late, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I was explaining that Madhu was a Rakshas that he killed. Sudana means to kill it. Symbolism is, I was talking about. Symbolism of Madhu is our own ego, which looks very sweet to us. When we fatten our ego, when people praise us, or, like our ego gets hurt, and then somebody says sorry or whatever, or, oh, you are so great. All those things are like honey to us, but for a spiritual person, it's not. Yes, but so from that perspective, and then Krishna Bhagwan is, Arjun is calling him Madhusudana, saying that, hey, you have conquered your ego, but look at us, we are still not there yet. So, and then he was saying that this yoga that you have explained to me, that's what the verse says, means, yoga of equanimity, he calls it. There is a word, samya word, means that is like a, and prokta is you have spoken about it, or you have taught this so far in this chapter, that this equanimity ka jo yoga hai na, the path of equanimity, because there are, both ways equanimity is there. One is that we have to make our mind equanimous. That's also a part of it. And so in the state of equanimity only we will progress. And then the other equanimity is seeing equalness everywhere. So seeing that Bhagwan or that Brahman in everybody, even people who you like, don't like, things that you love, hate, everything is pervaded by this. So seeing that oneness. So he's saying that this yoga of Samya Yoga is great, but I don't see a long-term stability in this, basically. So he didn't say completely impossible, I absolutely can't do it and all that, because he knows if Krishna Bhagavan is saying, he doesn't want to completely deny it. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता. Some people अड़ के बैठ जाएंगे. I don't want to even listen. He didn't. He was like, long term में नहीं हो सकता ये. That's what he's trying to tell him. और हम लोग को भी कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है, right? That if I, practice this sitting quietly for days and whatever years तो नहीं, I would say days and months ही बोलते हैं अपने लिए तो, चलो कि कुछ तो फर्क होएगा, obviously. Our mind will get a little quiet. We might even feel the glimpse and all that, and do our sadhana continuously and all that, and you will experience that calmness and peace, and then you might even get the glimpse of that Brahman. वहाँ तक भी ठीक है, लेकिन long term ये नहीं रह सकता. That's what he's telling him actually. So because he said, according to Arjun, there is a fundamental defect here. Okay, what is the defect? Mind is chanchal. Mind is very, so जिस equipment से हम लोग करना चाहते हैं उसी में दोष हो तो कैसे करेंगे, right? That's what basically he's trying to get at. So he's saying you quieten the mind and make it very, very still, and then you should know yourself, and this is what seems impossible. And Nikhilanand ji gave a beautiful example of an ocean. It's like, okay, somebody saying that ocean में ना जब waves बंद हो जाएंगी तब मैं वो bottom को देखूंगा. वो तो होने वाला नहीं है. And then चलो अगर समझो हवा बंद हो गई, ऊपर की वेव बंद हो गई, तो अंदर से भी कुछ हो सकता है. नीचे से कोई धारा बह रही है, like this, कि कोई अर्थ हिली तो सुनामी आ गई, ये वो, whatever, anything can happen in the ocean. From it's so vast, and we are at the biggest body over here. The Pacific Ocean is the biggest body on the earth. This currents can be there, So then why he took that example? Because he's saying that just like waves keep coming into the ocean, thoughts keep coming to us, and moving from one object to the other. So we can't put our attention at one place. And he's saying that sometimes, for no reason, some innate tendency in us can distract us. Remember we talked about it, कि चुपचाप बैठे हैं, suddenly we get disturbed because of past impressions. And then Nikhilanand ji was saying that we are like, constantly trying to look for pleasures and avoiding the pain. That's our pastime, he was saying. Constantly we keep doing that. So that's why our mind always stays disturbed. So, and because he was just saying that how, even scientifically it is proven that if you have many lives are there, we have this survival instinct, and we have fear. Fear is another big problem when we are born on this earth. We are constantly fearful of so many things. And he gave a very good example. He's saying, have you seen like the bird? If there is nobody around the bird and there is food, वो बड़े आराम से खाएगी bird. लेकिन कोई बैठा होगा ना तो ऐसे देखती रहेगी, like कि डर के खाएगी. And we have all noticed that. He's saying that's वही हाल हमारा भी है. We are just fearful and all that. So he's saying that this is what the problem is. So, this in conclusion, he's just telling Bhagwan that this is not possible. You are saying this. So, from his standpoint, at least, okay? So he's very honest about it, that from my standpoint, and we also all have the same standpoint, that I don't see that your theory is a great solution for my problem right now. So when Arjun spoke like this, Krishna Bhagavan didn't say anything yet. So that's why he goes to the one more verse trying to explain. So चलो आपको मेरी बात शायद इतना कन्विंस है, मैं और बताता हूँ आपको कि क्यों. So that goes to the next verse now. So anyway, so this is the verse about the difficulty and all the different points in it. Anyone has any question, comment, or want to add anything? No? Pretty clear? Because everybody feeling like Arjun now, right? Okay. So I guess Geeta ji, you want to read? Last time you had volunteered.
I have only the Kathopanishad book.
Okay, so you can today read the Kathopanishad. Good.
Yes.
Okay, and any other person want to read? Okay, so she'll.
Seeing that the yoga described, the yoga of right knowledge, is very difficult to attain, Arjuna wishes to know the surest means of gaining this yoga. Arjuna said, "This yoga equanimity taught by thee, O slayer of Madhu, I see now its enduring continuity because of the restlessness of the mind." The most practical-minded Aryan that he was, Arjuna, the man of action, could not at all be moved merely by the poetic beauty of an ideology. He was thirsty to live, and therefore the above-mentioned philosophy of meditation and successful victory over the cravings of flesh could not charm him away to any idle intellectual pursuit. He shot some very relevant questions to explore the seemingly impractical philosophy that has been explained in this chapter.
So sorry. Yeah, did the paragraph end over there or it didn't?
Yeah, it ends up here.
Yeah. So I thought we'll just, some people don't have the book, so just wanted to summarize. So basically, he's just saying that, Arjun, just because Krishna Bhagwan said it, he still doesn't want to accept it if he has some doubts. That's what it is, that he wants something, his doubts cleared, and he wants a theory that he can do it. Theory may be good for some other people, but he just felt, no, this doesn't look possible for me. And that's how a lot of us feel that way. Mm-hmm.
Detachment from pain attachments, dukkha, samyoga, viyoga, was the definition of yoga that the originality in Krishna could provide in this chapter. The process of achieving success in this detachment yoga has been explained herein as the technique of withdrawing the mind from the objects by lifting it to the planes of higher contemplation. The theory is that the mind, when it comes to a single-pointed devotion in the contemplation of the self, becomes stilled and redeems itself by ending its egocentric pilgrimage through the ignorance of the truth and the consequent misjudgment of the world.
Very long sentences and all that and a little bit confusing, but जो भी मैंने summarize किया था ना, जो कृष्ण भगवान ने technique बताई थी, and then he reminded, Swami ji reminded us, दुख संयोग वियोग. He said that दुख के साथ जो connection हुआ है उससे वियोग कर दो. So, and then how to do that and all, we saw the whole process. And then he was just saying that to redeem our mind with single-pointed devotion and contemplation of the self means, forget about the world, contemplate on the self, and that's how the mind will become quiet and, then and all that. That's the whole process he just summarized over here.
The goal pointed out perfect equanimity in all conditions, challenges, and circumstances of life is no doubt an admirable gain, but to Arjuna, the technique seems to be sheer poetic fantasy with no roots in the soil of the actualities of life. The acute, though gross intellect of Arjuna, systematically approaching the science of self-realization, discovers, as it were, a dangerous missing link in the chain of arguments. Mercilessly, the man of war is hammering at this weak point with the absolute confidence that he will expose immediately the hollowness of Krishna's philosophy.
So Swami ji ने बहुत ही strongly बोला that Arjun ने ये बात नहीं मानी यहाँ पे. Okay, he said कि भाई ये अभी तो मैंने पकड़ लिया कृष्ण भगवान को, खाली बोलते हैं अपने फ्रेंड को कभी कभी हम लोग बोलते हैं ना बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें करता है जब जब करना पड़ेगा तो मालूम पड़ेगा, काइंड ऑफ थिंग, समथिंग लाइक दैट. बिकॉज Krishna Bhagwan and him are like friends also. They are relatives and they are same age and they are friends and all that. So he's saying they are pakad liya ab to. It's a big ideology, but it's just not practical. And then Swamiji called it the gross intellect of Arjuna. अभी अर्जुन में वो प्योरिटी आई नहीं है माइंड में. So, from his standpoint, when we are full of vasanas and full of all these things, that's when the mind runs. So when you're sitting in that state, it doesn't look possible. That's what it is, he's saying.
Maji, I have a question here. The last line where it says Arjun's absolute confidence that he will expose immediately the hollowness of Krishna's philosophy. I don't think he ever doubted Krishna's philosophy.
See, this is what it is. अभी तक उसको वो कृष्ण भगवान का पूरा स्कोप मालूम नहीं पड़ा है ना. बिकॉज अभी आफ्टर चैप्टर 11 ही इज सो कन्विंस्ड, बट अब तक थोड़ा डाउट है उसके मन में.
But he always saw Krishna as his guru, didn't he?
No. So he did not see Krishna as his guru. It happened in chapter 2, and it was they call it surrender. He told them, teach me. So the way we view it, that before तो वो सुनने को तैयार नहीं था. Chapter 2 में it's like, all right, I'm ready to listen to you. Doesn't mean that he said, I'll do exactly what you say. He only said, I will do exactly what you say. जब पूरी तरह से गुरु मान लिया, that was in chapter 18. That yes, I will do it. My memory has come back, because then he had the experience of that Brahman himself. In this journey, he got the experience. Because Krishna Bhagwan ने उस पे mercy की, या because whatever, he gave him that experience of oneness. तब वो पूरा तरह से उसको मान. अभी क्या है, जैसे हमारे friends के साथ भी होता है ना, कि I respect somebody, but I'm not going to take everything like whatever they say. If I have doubt, I'm going to challenge it. That's where he is. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thus, Arjuna tauntingly points out, this yoga which you have been teaching me, which has been indicated by the mental tranquility, is not at all practical. The argument given by Arjuna and the daring with which he directly faces his teacher show the characteristic spirit of a true student of Vedanta. Blind faith can gain entry into the fields of pure spirituality.
No entry, it says. Blind faith can...
Yeah, okay. Blind faith can gain no entry into the fields of pure spirituality. Right? The teachers are to answer and clear all the doubts of the seekers. But in questioning the philosophy expounded by a teacher, the student must indicate the logical arguments by which he had come to feel the particular weakness in that philosophy. Here, Arjuna gives all his arguments to show why the state of evenness of mind would remain only a dream, as long as the human mind was by its very nature restless in its own agitations.
So this is what it is, that जिस equipment से वो कह रहे हैं कि think of the self and put your mind, place your mind in the self, वो equipment ही अगर गड़बड़ हो तो मैं कैसे करूँगा? That's the whole logic, his own logic by asking this question. And the other thing I want to tell you is that sometimes, when we in the beginning, when we are studying Vedanta, we also feel that this is very hi-fi, but I have to go out and work. I have to deal with the world. I have to deal with my family. How can I be equanimous? How can I do this? People say that all the time. That, it is good for the people who are sitting in, सब घर बार छोड़ के जो साधु बन गए उनके लिए है, ये तो हमारे लिए नहीं है, वगैरह वगैरह. कृष्ण भगवान ने तो अर्जुन को चुना देने के लिए कि no, it is for everybody. And सन्यासी का definition ही change कर दिया उन्होंने, वगैरह वगैरह. So, these kind of doubts are, if you think about it, a lot of people will have it. उसका shade different होएगा doubt का, मगर it's there कि दिन सुनने में सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा लगता है, मगर I can't do it, or people can't do it, or sansaris cannot do it. That's what it is. Yeah.
Even in contradicting the Krishna philosophy, Arjuna is extremely careful. He does not say that mental equanimity cannot be gained through meditation at all. But his doubt is that it cannot be an experience of long endurance. The implication is that even if after years of practice the mind were to be won over, the experience of the self can only be momentary. Although a full experience of the infinite can be had in that split moment, that direct realization cannot be maintained by the man of knowledge for any length of time, the mind being essentially, by its nature, ever restless.
So there is a little bit of that answer, Anilji, that उसने पूरी तरह से नहीं बोला कि whatever. Like I said, no, some people might just shut him and say, no, this is not possible, they walk away. He didn't do that. So he kind of basically saying for long endurance it's not possible, or for me it is not possible, whichever way you want to say it. And so he had this doubt, and the main thing is Krishna Bhagwan ne bola ki once the man gets established in that, then it is permanent and he looks at the whole world as one. That's where Arjuna is having a trouble. Like we also have, how will I see God in all the people who are doing bad stuff? Suddenly we will bring all these terrorists and Meeraji was saying, but they are so selfish, some people, they just, we have a hard time, right? So that similar kind of doubt, hey, long endurance mein kaise ho sakta hai? ठीक है, for a moment I might feel oneness and all that, but when I'm going to go out and fight, how can I see God in my dushman? I mean, he's a soldier. Imagine that. So that's why he was having this doubt.
It's quite interesting how a receptive student like Arjuna gathers unto himself the style and language, the vocabulary and the diction of his teacher. The terms qualifying the mind used here by Arjuna are terms that have been borrowed from the Lord's own declaration earlier in this chapter.
So he's, basically the next words he's going to say all those things that my mind is, the words he are going to use is chanchala, but strong, unyielding, and just turbulent. All these words, because Krishna Bhagwan, he had used the same words in an earlier verse himself. So he borrowed it. So somebody say, "Tu nahi bola tha." Somehow we friend ko bolte na, you only said this and now you're, saying do this. So that's what he's bringing. And it's basically just clarifying it further and further, because that's why, after this verse 35 is the one that Krishna Bhagwan is going to answer. And what he is going to answer is very significant for us too. Because we have to literally memorize those two things, that how we can be successful in meditation, So that's where we are. So this is a huge doubt by Arjuna over here. Any question, comment, or anybody wants to add anything to this? Do we all feel like the same like Arjuna? Yeah, right? So see how logical it is over here in Bhagavad Gita, that whatever it is, through the journey, all our doubts also keep getting cleared.
I think the main difference here, the way I understand, he says that he can gain that equanimity while he's meditating or away from the world. As soon as he enters the world, then because he doesn't see oneness everywhere, he has to deal with different people, So the different thoughts come in his mind, bad and good. But if he saw the whole world in oneness, then those thoughts will not enter in his mind.
I think very good analysis. And I think that's exactly what happens. And in fact, even when you sit in pravachan, like, Tejamayananji used to say, or he says that when you sit in pravachan, you feel so good and peaceful and all. And then moment we get out, we forget everything. And then wohi problem shuru ho jata hai, anger, frustration, this, that. So, true. But what Krishna Bhagwan is saying, you have to continue it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen slowly. Shanay, unhone pehle keh diya. Shanay. So don't expect ki bhai, oh, now I know everything intellectually. Now I'm going to sit in meditation. 1 minute I'm going to see oneness. No, we can give lectures, we can do all that, but to actually start feeling the oneness, it is a slow process. And we discussed in our discussion time, right? Little bit change we see in ourselves also. So slowly.
So, one time you gave the analogy of when somebody is full,
Yeah.
then he cannot take any more food, no matter how good or bad. So once somebody is full of Brahmanan,
Right.
then there is no space for anything else to enter in his body.
Correct. That's exactly right. And then even, when we say that, oh, this world is unreal, meaning it's not, we cannot say unreal means ki hai hi nahi. Because obviously we are experiencing. But hamara experience permanent nahi hai. Like, we saw. But इतना सब बोलने के बाद भी हम लोग को रियल लगता है ना है कि नहीं I mean, there is one question, you must be knowing about that Yaksha Prashna. Whoever knows about Mahabharata, it's a very famous story where this Yudhishthir has to answer all these questions to this Yaksha. And Yaksha asks him कि संसार में सबसे बड़ा आश्चर्य क्या है? So he says, सबसे बड़ा आश्चर्य ये है कि everybody knows that we are not going to die one day. But we still think we are going to be here forever. Like as if death is going to happen to somebody else, not me or something, And because अगर हमको ये पता है तो हम लोग का change होना चाहिए attitude, right? पर होता नहीं है इतना जल्दी. We still think that we're going to be here forever. In this form, he meant, obviously from the highest spiritual, we are going to be there forever, but in this form we think we're going to be here. So it's the same thing, what you said, that totally being established and seeing that oneness, it's a journey. In the beginning, it looks very difficult, but I think as you go forward, you feel some hope. Because we see improvement in our own self, or, like we were talking about, the threshold becomes better, or things like that. Anybody else have
Also, according to my book, actually it's the same thing, but why he calls him Madhusudana. Madhu is actually he kills the demon Madhu. So, and the demon represents ignorance. So, I mean, the main thing is Krishna is like all of us, we are all restless. We get some peace, and then after some time when we are doing meditation, we get frustrated. Mm-hmm. So in this verse, it's saying is don't get frustrated. Just remember me, and then keep on doing efforts. And one day you will get the...
Right. It's like we have to continue the journey forward. That's what it is like. There is a mountain peak is there. It looks like impossible. But if you keep trudging along, then one day we will reach. Okay, so if nobody has any other question or comment on Bhagavad Gita, I'll stop here. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम.